This podcast is brought to you by eBizRadio, the place to go if you want to know about the world of business. For daily podcast and article uploads, go to eBizRadio.com or follow us on Twitter at eBizRadioGlobal. My name is Nick Snow, and joining me for the first Motoring Biz of 2015 is the one and only Thegandra Naidoo. Thegandra, good to be chatting to you again. I trust you had a good break. Of course, back with some fantastic motoring news. News of the week, of course, we're looking at petrol, we're looking at road tests, as well as some fantastic news in terms of South African motoring. And then, of course, a road test of the new Toyota Hilux 3-litre D4D Legend 45. So, Thegandra, once again, thanks for joining us. Tell us about all these news things that happened over the festive season.
Well, it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and of course we've seen the petrol price come down, which is a great thing for everybody's pockets. And I think there's been a decrease in the number of road fatalities over the festive season as well. Not as good as we expected it to be, but any improvement is a good improvement. But the biggest news, of course, coming out over the last week is that Toyota South Africa finishing off at the 2015 Dakar Rally. Genial de Villiers, of course, seasoned driver at Dakar. He's a veteran of the race, and in the last 4 seasons, having raced with Toyota South Africa with the Toyota Hilux, he's finished in third, he's finished second, fourth, and second again. So he's very seasoned. He knows the track very well. He knows the conditions, and he goes all out and gives it his best. And it's just sad that we couldn't actually score the win. And at the press conference earlier this week, he did mention that they tried a different strategy in one of the stages, and unfortunately it didn't work for them because they lost about 20 minutes to Nasser Al-Attiyah in the Mini. And this resulted in them finishing second. But had it worked, they would have pulled off the victory quite comfortably. Now, de Villiers is like I've mentioned, he's a veteran to the Dakar Rally. He won the 2009 event in a Volkswagen Touareg when he raced for the VW team. And but you consider that's a factory team like the Mini. They come through with tons of budget, and I'm talking millions of US dollars here. In the case of Toyota South Africa, we're talking of a team going there on $2.5 to $3 million US dollars in total, versus teams with 10 times the budget and a lot more vehicles. And yet we still managed to come through and come through in second place.
That's just brilliant.
If you consider that Persia has also returned to the Dakar Rally, and in their first attempt after about 20 years, they could only secure a 9th spot. And like I've mentioned, big budgets there too. South Africa doing very well. We've got very good drivers, and I think they're quite confident that their vehicle for the 2016 event will be a lot better as well. So they're going to fine-tune it. And but Toyota South Africa hasn't yet confirmed its participation. They're very confident that they can win the event, so it's likely that they will return. So we should see Poulter and Genial de Villiers, of course, once again behind the wheel of the Hiluxes, and let's hope for a victory next year.
Yes, we only can, and I think it's fantastic that we are producing results overseas, and let's hope that it generates enough interest that they get the budget they need so we can take that number 1 spot. But now, of course, we have to go to a little bit of somber news, of course. We need to chat about, unfortunately, the road toll that it took over the festive season and the safety around it. Some good news, however, it did decrease, but just not enough, I think, to make a huge dent.
Yeah, I guess so. It's only decreased by 0.6%, and if you look at it, I think that's bringing it down by about 10 people. And this season we had 1,137 fatalities, and this was taken between 1 December 2014 and 5th January 2015. So we need to do more to curb the number of road deaths in South Africa. And Minister of Transport, Depoa Peters, she has actually mentioned that the main reasons for people having accidents and for the death toll still remaining quite high is the fact that people don't obey traffic rules, and people still drink and drive. And we have tons of unroadworthy vehicles on our roads as well. But the positives are that the local government officials are conducting studies in Australia and Sweden to better understand the methodologies, because in these countries they have very little road deaths, and we try to adopt these strategies and hopefully implement them locally, and bring down these road deaths. And South Africa among the highest in the world in terms of road deaths and fatalities. So we need to do more. We need to be more vigilant. And you and I might be the safe and the sober drivers, but we do have reckless drivers on our roads as well. People under the influence of alcohol, and we need to be wary of them as well. So it's a matter of everybody being proactive in order to bring down the death toll.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to take a group effort. There's no one person who can do it on their own. And as much as government tries to implement legislation or drop speeds, it's not really solving the problem. It's got to deal with the psychology of the people. So hopefully we can get that right. But then on to happy news. Of course, we had a massive 1.25 or 1 rand and 25 cents rather decrease for petrol. And apparently there's good news on the horizon as well for February.
Yes, exactly. And I think we could see another petrol drop of around another rand. And, it does impact positively over the next few months with petrol price decreases, especially in these economically tough times. Now, the petrol price is largely dependent on two factors, and one being the exchange rate versus the US dollar. And at this point in time, South Africa, the rand is trading very weak against the US dollar. I think it's about 11 rand 50. But the price of Brent crude oil has come down well below the $50 a barrel mark. Now, this is a significant drop in the price of Brent crude oil. So the reasons for this, and it's quite simple. The fact that many of the governments are now starting with tracking. You find that the countries that do produce or do drill for oil, they've suddenly decided, well, let's keep the price of oil down. So it makes fracking, it doesn't make it viable anymore. So it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, perhaps trillion-dollar industry, and clearly there's dictators out there who dictate the price of Brent crude oil. But it's a good thing because at this point in time, it does bring down the cost of food, and it does put money back in the consumer's pockets as well. Because if transportation costs are kept down, well, basically then the food price comes down as well. So.
Yes.
A good example is a couple of months ago, and I'm talking about 3 or 4 months ago, I was paying about 570 rand to refill my Ford Fiesta, which has got a 40-litre fuel tank. And I refueled it earlier this week, and I spent just 449 rand. Now, that's a huge saving when you consider that that's per week. So in a month, I could save 480 to 500 rand. For a lot of people, that's a lot of money. So, yes, it's a big saving. Yes. It does put a lot of money back in our pockets.
No, and that's a good thing. I think especially it has also brought the CPI down, the consumer price inflation, of course, so consumer price index, which will ultimately hopefully reduce interest rates, or government will otherwise use it as an opportunity to raise the interest rates so that we can get this economy going in the right direction. So positives all round, although I think we're still going to feel the pinch in some areas with the decrease. But definitely going to feel the decrease in paying for petrol and or diesel if you got the new Toyota Hilux 3-litre D4D Legend 45, which you road tested this week. How was it?
Well, there's a famous saying about Toyota Hiluxes, and it's that the Toyota Hilux doesn't get old; it just gets stronger and keeps going strong. And I think that's one of the payoff lines that Toyota has used for many years. It keeps going strong. And it's because of their history and their heritage with Toyota Hilux in South Africa. Now, we all know that Toyota is working on the 8th generation Hilux as we speak, but they've remained very tight-lipped on the launch date of this vehicle. But predictions are that it will be here by the second quarter of 2016. Now, one day we might actually be able to catch Toyota out here and speculate, but we can still just speculate in the meantime. About what is the future with the Toyota Hilux in this country. But many customers are still quite content to stay with the tried and tested 7th generation. Now, the reason why many owners and even potential owners continue to buy this vehicle is due to its durability, I think its reliability, and should you decide to actually sell it someday and trade it in, you have excellent and unbeatable resale value versus any other bakkie. 2014 represented a pinnacle and a milestone in the Hilux history because it turned 45 years, or 45 years of the bakkie in South Africa. It was first launched here, I think, in 1969. And even though Toyota started producing vehicles in 1961 at its Prospecting plant, I think it was only until the early 70s that they started building it here. So prior to that, as of 1969, they were importing them. So to mark the 45th anniversary, they released a special edition called the Legend 45. Now, Toyota in South Africa, or the Hilux in South Africa, it's a story that could go down in the history books because we've sold around 1 million units in South Africa, and I think worldwide they've sold about 13 million. So the Hilux is the longest active model range of any vehicle in the country.
Incredible.
And it is, and it's the market leader for 43 years. But with recent strong competition from Ford and Mazda with the BT50 and the Ranger, I think Toyota still continues to hold an average of about 34% of the local one-ton market. And having held the record for the best-selling bakkie for 43 years, I think it lost that trend last November because the Ford Ranger has now become the top-selling bakkie in the country. Now, if you go back a couple of years, in 1969, you could pick up a Toyota Hilux for 1,500 Rand. These days, of course, a lot more expensive, not as cheap or affordable as that. And if you take the special edition Legend 45, it starts at 300,000 and it's all the way up to 530,000 Rand plus. So it's very pricey for what you're paying for. It's an expensive bakkie. Now, it's like I've mentioned, it's been built here since the early 70s in Durban. And they started the Legend series in 2004. So they built the Legend 45, not the Legend 35, the Legend 40 in 2009. And then 2014 they built the Legend 45. But with the new model, of course, all they've done with it is that it's a special edition model. It receives new headlamps and the fog light design. It's got smoked taillights. It's got the stainless steel nudge bar and rear bumper. It's got a tow bar, and it's got the matte black steps. But the most obvious features are the Legend 45 badging and the anthracite mag wheels. On the inside, you've just got a silver leather stitching on the steering wheel and the gear knob, and then it comes standard with the reverse camera, a DVD touchscreen, and the color-coded door handles, etc. So nothing really special other than that. But on the open road, and when you get out behind the wheel of this vehicle, you realize where it comes to the fore. And we drove this vehicle on a route through roads through Limpopo. So this included Bella Bella and Naboomspruit and as far up as Polokwane. And, this vehicle just chirped along quite happily. Now, I spent a fair number of kilometers behind the wheel of this double cab. And as one would expect, it didn't miss a beat. And when it came to off-road conditions, there wasn't really anything challenging. So the most I actually ever did with it was selected 4x4 high range and played with it on loose gravel roads. So we never really took it bunda bashing, but we know its key strengths in that area as well. But on the highway stretch, the cruise control just works effortlessly, and it gave us enough time to savor the beauty of the landscape. And whenever we hit an undulating surface, and the vehicle felt slightly light, but I would put that down to the fact that there was no luggage in the rear cargo loading area. So that's nothing unusual with a bakkie. But power from this 3-liter engine, 120 kilowatts and 343 newton meters of torque. It's compared to its competitors, it's quite low, and it doesn't quite match up to them. Because if you look at some of its competitors, the 3.2-liter Ranger produces 147 kilowatts and a lot more torque with the 470 newton meters. And if you look at the Isuzu KB, that's got 130 kilowatts and 380 newton meters. So the Toyota power figures, it's rather mundane and it's a bit low on the power side. But the drive, however, it's very superb. The engine performs like any Toyota product should. It's actually effortless. And it's got very long gear changes, but it does the job nonetheless. And the steering can't be faulted either. It feels a bit too loose, but I think it's a bakkie. You don't expect supercar or sports car performance from it. And the suspension, of course, very firm, and it shakes you around on poor surfaces. But it's really been designed to be a workhorse for the farm, and it's got less lifestyle tendencies with it. But on the inside, leather interior, it's got good comfort levels, and it was great on the not-so-great Limpopo roads. But during my test period, I averaged about 10 liters, or 10.5 liters of the combined fuel consumption. I think I got it down to as low as 8.8 liters on the open road. But performance, not startling, 0 to 100 in about 12.7 seconds. But like I've mentioned, not built for speed. It's not a supercar, sports car. It's actually a workhorse. So that's where it does its job effortlessly. Yes. And a plus in this vehicle is that it's much smaller than most double cab bakkies of the modern day. So it's actually far easier to maneuver and park into a parking area. Most bakkies is very difficult. You turn in and you've got to reverse and then swing in. So it becomes a bit of a nightmare when you're trying to park underground basement,
But
etc.
that's probably why it's lost its spot to the Ranger, is because it's not designed to be a luxury vehicle. It's designed to do a job. It's designed to be nimble. It's designed to have a small turning circle. It's designed to get in and out of construction areas, not in and out of your garage.
I guess so, and I think that's where it would most probably spend most of its life, in construction sites and on farm roads and in really harsh work terrains and conditions. But yeah, it's still, we don't know what we could expect from the 8th generation. They might decide to go bigger and actually challenge the Ranger. So, we haven't yet seen many pictures, or there isn't much information as yet on the next generation model, but let's see what they come up with. One of the key elements, of course, on the inside was that, the interior colors just don't seem to match up. And but I've come to accept that Toyota designs vehicles this way because they concentrate on more important stuff, such as the reliability in terms of the mechanicals and the electricals. And they've done the job just fine because Toyotas just keep running and they've lasted the test of time. But pricing, of course, our test unit was the 3-liter D4D, the 4x4 model, and this is priced at 495,000 Rand. Now, that does include a 5-year, 90,000 kilometer service plan, and Toyota will sell you the marketing jargon that they've got the best sales network across the country, etc. All good and well, but it's a huge amount of money to pay for something that is just a special edition. Now, if I had my pick and I had to choose a bucky right now, I would go for the Ford Ranger Wildtrak equivalent. That is priced at 474,000, and I think it comes with a much better value for money. So not to bring down the Legend 35, I just feel that the bucky is old. It's getting a bit old. The styling is a bit dated. It's 9 years old now versus the Ranger, which is actually, it was released about 3 years ago. So it's a very good looking bucky, and I think that they are planning to release the next Ranger around about 2018 or 2019. So Toyota is only going to be 2 or 3 years ahead when they release the 8th generation. But I think there's a lot to expect from them. And, it's a reliable brand. It's a solid brand. There's very little to complain about in the current offering. So with the new Ranger, I think we can expect a really good vehicle. And of course, my apologies, not the Ranger, the next Hilux. We can expect a really good vehicle, and that most probably will take Toyota to new levels. So it might actually beat the Ranger in terms of sales.
And you never know. I think there's always time for them to improve. I mean, obviously they're not going to want to lose that top spot anytime soon again. So they might make some slight additions to the next edition, so that they can kind of reclaim it and maybe move back into that luxury segment a little bit.
I guess so, but remember, Toyota is a clever brand in terms of how they position the vehicles and where they remain in the market. And you look, if you take some of the TV adverts that they've got running at the moment. Yeah, you look at the history. They play on the historical fact of where the bucky started and where they are going with it. And you cannot take that away from them. And there's so much history and there's so much truth that comes out of these adverts. It makes you think that, well, I could go for another vehicle, but it looks good. It might be cheaper. The Ranger is a great vehicle. It's very sound. It's one of the most reliable vehicles you'll get out there. But is it going to be the Toyota Hilux? Is it going to be the Toyota Hilux in the next 20 or 30 years? Is it going to stand the test of time? And I think that's where it comes down to Toyota actually putting it out there, try and test it. And it's all about, well, where we've been and where we are and where we expect to be. Ford, well, they're only coming to the fore now, and we don't know where they would be in the next 10 or 20 or 30 years with their bucky. So, yes, Toyota, I think they're still number one in terms of reliability, I guess.
Definitely number one. I don't think Toyota will ever lose that spot. But for the pricing, do you think it's really that good a deal, or do you think that they have some improvement to make?
I think they've got some improvements to make, and it's like I've said, you're comparing a bucky that is 9 years old to a bucky that is just 3 years old. And the Ford Ranger Wildtrak, it's a very good, sound-looking bucky. It's one of the, in fact, the best-looking buckies out there at this point in time. And Ford doing a great job in terms of the styling and what they give you as standard features. So Toyota, whilst, like I've mentioned, whilst they've given you the special edition with quite a bit of stuff in it as standard features, you're looking at roughly 20,000 Rand. It's price difference. A lot of people look at that these days, and 20,000 Rand makes all that difference when it comes to sale. So Toyota, I think what they're going to have to do is position the pricing of the next generation model really competitively to actually retain the number one spot, or to become the number one selling battery once again in South Africa, just based purely on the pricing rather than just emotional value in terms of, well, it's a legendary battery.
Yes, no, most definitely. And we'll just have to wait and see what good things do come. And I've no doubt that they'll make some tweaks because as a very competitive and very well-known company, I know that they're going to want to take that number one spot again. But it brings us quite nicely to the end of this edition of Motoring Biz. Thegandra, fantastic to talk to you once again.